Survey Corps was formed in 1915, 10 weeks after the landing of Gallipoli. That was a perfect example of where bad maps contributed to bad planning and resulted in huge amounts of loss of life. Having the Survey Corps formed in that particular time was evidence that even Defence itself knew they desperately needed its own mapping organisation to improve that whole capability.
The standard of your work needed to be very high because in a lot of cases, people's lives could depend on it.
With no maps, the army's not moving. You have to have a map to be able to move or do what you need to do in any situation.
Imagine being given the task of go out and map Australia with that many people and with the technology at the time, 1915, where would you start? How big is Australia? And to try and map with the technology you had, it was just a huge task. So the requirement to map Australia was then shared between National Mapping and the Survey Corps. Survey Corps was tasked with the remote areas, not because they were easier, but because they were harder.
We were gaining ground control, which means we were getting the precise latitude, longitude point of where we were on the Earth's surface. And with the early GPS, we could get our position within 1.5 metres of anywhere we were on the world surface.
Pretty much 90% it was helicopter deployment to the field survey stations. You had an incredible feeling of isolation every time you dropped into a station location. Some was just cleared jungle, which had never been cleared before, and was creating a new survey station from scratch. Erect a large pneumatic tower, of which the GPS antenna was put on the top, to give it sufficient clearance with the surrounding jungle so it could actually receive the GPS signals as the GPS satellites are orbiting through. I ended up doing about 20 survey stations in that 2 months.
So photos were taken from a plane of the country below or the land below, and then they were made into plates and they went into what was called a photogrammetry machine, and you would have 2 of them. And if you were going to do the plotting, which was where you got all your line work for the maps, you would look through these stereo glasses and you would have to bring those 2 images together so that they became a 3D model, so you could actually see the land as it was.
The B8s themselves were huge. They were cumbersome, they were a huge workstation. You had a table out to the side which had a plotting arm, which from what you caught, there was a pencil attached to it and you saw it, and that would give you the ability to draw what you see.
Effectively, every line was either hand-drawn in ink and then traced with scribing, which was a manual process of using sapphire-tipped cutters to hand trace on scribe material, which would powder and scrape off.
So we're entrusted actually to try to faithfully represent that natural terrain and man-made terrain on a military map, and that was what the cartographer had to do.
Working on large sheets like that, very time-consuming, very rewarding when you're finished.
As a lithographic draftsman, as I said before, we took various pieces of rep map and combined them into the final material to go to the plate maker. The material we're using back in those days were negatives. On the topographical map, you've got 5 basic colours: black, blue, brown, green and red for all the various classifications on the map. Those negatives had to be retouched, which was taking out any blemishes or fixing up any of the line work that might have got distorted during the process of being made.
So we'd make the printing plates. Printing plates then go onto the printing press. The whole point then is to get the registration of all those colours as it goes through the multicoloured printing press. The standard map became a 5-colour map, but your jogs had 9 colours on. The 5-colour map would go through twice. The 9 ones would go through 3 or 4 times, depending on what machine they were doing on. So there was nothing for them to do anything up to, on a good week, they could do between 15, 18 maps a week.
Yeah, depending on the demand, and it would change. Roughly about 2,500 sheets would be what we would run normally. The setup time's probably the most time-consuming part of it is that to put all the plates on, start printing, to make sure it's all correct, colour-wise. It's all about preparing that machine ready to print.
In 1947, the Survey Corps was granted the title Royal because of the efforts of the individuals, particularly during World War II, in support of our Defence Forces. They were mapping the Kokoda track in harm's way before the troops arrived. That's the sort of thing that needed to happen.
The Survey Corps quickly established a reputation, being one of the foremost military map-making organisations in the world.
Coming from that aeronautical air charting background, whenever there was an Air Force crash, which map? Did I work on that? Did I put a wrong height on it? So we're not just producing a map, we're producing a map that can be used, and people need and did trust the information we gave. So there was a huge responsibility on us to try and get as good as we possibly could. Survey Corps produced maps for Defence and printed all of the maps for the Air Force and printed all the maps for the Navy.
It was fabulous that we interacted with other services, which a lot of services don't get to do. And it also, we interacted with allies.
There was a lot of exchange of personnel sent to the United States and Great Britain to acquire new skills and then impart that into new equipment purchases so we can actually continue to modernise.
We were the first organisation to bring in computerised mapping, and we have led the way in mapping ever since.
The regiment here had become really so advanced in their automatic mapping systems, their control of imagery, their storage of imagery, and whole new methods of making maps.
When it started out, everything was huge, and as the years have gone on, it's gone smaller, smaller and smaller. Capability of taking in data is just massive now compared to when you started out. The ability to do a job and the space that it would take up.
The technology that was moving was a roller coaster ride that was so fast you had to hang on with both hands. It was exciting, invigorating. How can we do what we're doing better? How can we do it quicker? So we're now producing something that really is, and we've always felt this, that our products were always a national asset as well. All that being said, the Survey Corps was disbanded in 1996.
I felt an overwhelming feeling of gratitude and satisfaction and pride of the service, and also what the Survey Corps had done and what it had given all of us in our lives.
We were here to map Australia and other countries and to do it to a really high quality, to a high standard, and I think that we achieved that.
The amount of job satisfaction that we achieved, and it was just absolutely amazing that all the people around you were so motivated, you almost couldn't wait to get to work. But our motivation has always been to produce a product and give the best product that we could possibly give to our Defence Force.